This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Okay, so imagine for a second that we are standing in the Great Hall. You know, the Vibrate, floating candles, the enchanted ceiling, nervous students, the whole bit.
I can picture it.
But instead of some old tattered hat deciding if you're brave or cunning, and instead of 11-year-old wizards, we have the heavyweights, the absolute titans of ancient Greek philosophy, all lined up.
Thales, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the whole crew.
And we're going to sort them.
Yeah, and here's the catch for today's deep dive. We're not sorting them based on who was smartest or, who has the best quotes for Instagram.
No.
We're using a sorting hat that was stitched together in the 18th century by a man with a very specific, and you could almost say ruthless, agenda.
We're talking about Johann Jakob Brucker. Now, looking at the research you pulled, this guy isn't exactly a household name. If I bring him up at a dinner party, I'm just going to get blank stares.
Oh, absolutely.
But back in the 1700s, he was. He was the guy.
He was a titan. He wrote this massive multi-volume work, The Critical History of Philosophy. And before Brucker, the history of philosophy was, well, it's kind of a mess.
Just a scrapbook, basically.
Totally. Random biographies, weird stories about Diogenes in a barrel, collections of sayings. Brucker was the first person to walk into that messy library and say, okay, I'm going to organize this. I'm going to build a system.
And that's the system we're unpacking.
Right.
Because when he organized that library, he didn't just, alphabetize things. He drew a hard line in the sand.
He really did.
He basically said, there are two types of thinkers in history. The ones who stayed in their lane and the ones who crashed the car.
That's a pretty good way of putting it. And to understand that line, you have to understand who Brucker was. He wasn't really a philosopher first. He was a German Lutheran theologian.
Ah, okay.
And he was writing at a time when the boundaries between faith and reason were, that was the hottest topic you could imagine.
So he's looking all the way back at ancient Greece, at these pre-Christian thinkers. But he's looking through the lens of an 18th century Protestant pastor. That feels like it comes with some heavy baggage.
It comes with a very, very specific filter. His whole thesis, the core of his life's work, is that philosophy and theology have two completely different jobs. And the great tragedy of history for Brucker is that people keep getting them confused.
Okay, so let's get the job description straight. Because I think to a lot of us now, philosophy and theology kind of blend together. They're both about the big questions, right? But for him, they're what? Oil and water.
Completely. For Brucker, theology is the study of God, salvation, the soul. The ultimate meaning of why we're all here. That's revealed truths. That's sacred ground.
Right.
Philosophy in his book is the study of everything else. Logic, physics, medicine, politics, how rain falls, how planets move.
So philosophy is the mechanic explaining how the engine works.
Yes.
And theology is the driver explaining the destination.
That's a perfect analogy. And Brucker's one rule for our sorting ceremony today is basically this. Philosophy must explain the world using reason. If you use your brain to explain the mechanics of nature, you get a gold star. You go on what we'll call the reason team.
And the violation, there's got to be a penalty box.
The violation is when a philosopher gets ambitious. When they stop looking at the engine and start telling you why the car loves you. Okay. If a philosopher tries to use reason to prove God exists, or to offer a path to salvation, or explain some mystical one, Brucker blows the whistle. That's a border violation.
Because they're doing theology without a license.
And they're doing it badly. That's his whole point. When philosophy tries to be religion, it just becomes a fable. It becomes a narrative. So the two teams are the reason team, the scientist, basically, and the story team, the narrative builders.
I have a feeling people are going to be pretty surprised by who ends up on which team, because we tend to think of the story team guys, the ones talking about virtue and the soul, as the heroes of philosophy.
We do.
But Brucker, he sees it very differently.
He flips the script completely. He argues that the people we usually hold up as the great wise men of antiquity, they were actually the ones who ruined philosophy.
All right, I'm ready. Let's get into it. Let's bring out the first candidates. We're going way back to the beginning. The pre-Socratics, the guys looking at the world trying to figure out what it's all made of. First up, Thales.
Thales of Miletus, the OG, the first guy to really try and strip the mythology away.
So Thales has that famous line, the world is made of water. Now, obviously that's wrong. The world isn't a giant water balloon. Does Brucker penalize him for being wrong?
Not at all. Brucker sorts Thales immediately into the reason team.
Even though he's wrong.
Being right isn't the point. The method is the point. Think about what Thales did. He didn't say Poseidon made the world from water. He didn't say water is a god.
Right.
He just looked at nature. He saw that moisture was everywhere, that it was necessary for life, that water turns to ice and steam, and he proposed a natural physical element as the building block of everything.
He took a swing at a material explanation. He didn't rely on some just-so story about Zeus.
Exactly. He explained nature using nature.
Yeah.
For Brucker, that is the gold standard. Thales is doing physics, even if it's primitive physics. He kept theology out of it.
Okay, so after Thales, we get Anaximander. He came along and said the root of everything isn't water, it's something he called the boundless, or the infinite. Now that sounds a little trippy to me. The boundless, is that a drift towards the story teams?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? The boundless sounds suspiciously like God. But Brucker keeps him on the reason team.
How does he justify that? That seems like a lenient call from our strict judge.
Well, it's because, for Anaximander, the boundless wasn't a deity you prayed to. It was a theoretical substance. It's almost like dark matter or energy fields in modern physics. He was trying to describe a mechanism for how the world generates itself. He wasn't building a cult around it. He was building a hypothesis.
And the third of this trio, Anaximenes, said it was air, so I'm assuming he's safe too. Safe and sound. Right on the reason team. These three, the Milesians, they're what Brucker calls the naturals. They are the good guys. They observed, they used reason, and they didn't try to sell you a new religion.
So far, so good. The reason team is undefeated, but I know things are about to get weird. We have to talk about Pythagoras.
Pythagoras.
For triangle guy, the math guy. Now, common sense would say if Thales is on the reason team for liking water, surely the guy who invented, the foundations of geometry is on the reason team. Math is ultimate reason, isn't it?
It is. And if Pythagoras had just stuck to the blackboard, he would have been Brucker's hero. But Brucker puts the sorting hat on Pythagoras and screams, story team.
Okay, walk me through this. Why is the mathematician the first big villain here?
Because Pythagoras didn't just use math, he mystified it. His claim wasn't just a squared plus b squared. His claim was that the world is literally made of numbers.
Right.
He thought numbers had souls and moral weights and spiritual significance. He believed that understanding the number 4 or the number 10 was a path to salvation. I remember reading about the cult aspect. Didn't they have all those weird rules, like weird dietary things?
There's a full-on cult. Don't eat beans, don't poke the fire with a sword. Vows of silence, secret initiations. Pythagoras started a mystery religion. He took a tool of mathematics and turned it into a religion. For Brucker, that is the moment philosophy started to rot.
That's a really strong word. Rot.
It's the original sin of philosophy in Brucker's telling. Pythagoras mixed the streams. He took rational inquiry and he blended it with Egyptian mysticism and religious ritual. He stopped explaining how the world works and started telling a story about the hidden spiritual meaning of the universe.
He became a guru. That's really what we're saying.
Exactly. He became a guru. And for a Lutheran theologian like Brucker, a guru is just a false prophet with a calculator. It's the worst of both worlds.
So Pythagoras is out. He's captain of the story team so far. Next up, Heraclitus, the everything flows guy. You can't step in the same river twice.
Story team.
Really? I always saw him as just an observer of nature. Things change, fire burns, rivers flow. Sounds like physics to me.
He was observing, yeah.
Yeah.
But he introduced the concept of the logos. Now, in Greek, logos can just mean word or reason. But Heraclitus, he elevated the logos into this cosmic, godlike force that steers the universe.
He deified the concept of logic.
Yes, I'm seeing the pattern now. If you take a concept numbers, logic, and you capitalize it and make it holy, you're off the team.
You've got it. Brucker has a word for this. He calls it enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. That sounds like a good thing. I'm enthusiastic about this deep dive.
In the 18th century, enthusiasm was a dirty word. It meant fanaticism. It meant believing you had some kind of direct mystical hotline to the truth. When Heraclitus talks about the logos, he's not talking about a theory. He's talking about a divine revelation. And Brucker hates that. It bypasses reason.
Okay, so we've got the naturals on one side, the mystics on the other. But now we get to a guy who was always presented as the weirdest, most abstract thinker. Parmenides.
Existence is one. Change is an illusion.
Right. He looked at the world, saw things moving and changing, and just said, nope, my logic tells me that's impossible, so your eyes are lying to you.
This is the birth of metaphysics. And for Brucker, it's an immediate one-way ticket to the story team.
Why? Isn't he using reason? He's using pure logic to prove his point.
He is, but he's using it to deny reality. Parmenides is prioritizing a narrative about the one over the observable facts of creation. He's literally denying the physical world in favor of an abstract idea. To Brucker, that is pure fiction. It's a fable made by the mind, completely detached from God's world.
That's fascinating. We usually praise him for being the first to use strict deductive logic, but Brucker says if your logic leads you to deny reality, your logic is broken.
Exactly. It's a hyper-rationalism that just loops back around into insanity. It's a story the mind tells itself, not an explanation of the world.
So the story team is really stacking up. But there has to be a champion for the reason team coming up, someone who brings it back to basics.
There is. And interestingly, it's the guy who's often called the laughing philosopher, Democritus.
The atomist.
Democritus looks at the world and says, it's just atoms in the void. Tiny particles bouncing around in empty space. That's it. No logos, no mystical numbers, no boundless, just matter in motion.
And Brucker. He loves this.
He gives him high honors for the reason team.
Wait, I have to pause here. Democritus is essentially an atheist, right? He's describing a mechanical universe with no creator. Why would a Lutheran theologian love the atheist philosopher?
That is the great paradox of Brucker, and it's the key to this whole thing. Brucker loves Democritus because he leaves God out of it.
Explain that. That seems totally counterintuitive.
Well, think about it. By describing the world as a pure machine, Democritus leaves the door wide open for theology to come in and handle all the spiritual stuff separately. He doesn't invent a fake philosophy god like Pythagoras did. He just explains the matter.
I think...
This keeps the reason lane clean and the theology lane open.
So the atheist is the theologian's best friend because he stays in his lane. He's not a competitor.
Precisely. Pythagoras is a competitor. He's trying to be a priest. Democritus is just a mechanic. Brucker can work with a mechanic. A mechanic doesn't try to save your soul.
That's a wild insight. The godless physics is preferred because it doesn't counterfeit religion.
Exactly. But now we get to the pivot point, the main event. The man who is the hero of every other history book, Socrates.
Socrates, the gadfly of Athens, the martyr for truth. The unexamined life is not worth living. I am prepared to fight you on this. Socrates has to be the good guy. He died for this stuff.
I know, it hurts. But the sorting hat comes down and Brucker shouts, "Story team!"
Socrates is the father of Western logic. He just walked around asking people to define their terms. He was the ultimate rationalist.
But was he? Think about what he actually did. He turned his back on nature. He explicitly said he didn't care about how clouds work or what rocks were made of. He focused entirely on ethics, on the soul, on the good.
But isn't that a good thing? He made philosophy human. He brought it down from the stars to the city square.
To us, yes. To Brucker, this is the disaster. This is where philosophy stops being a science and starts trying to do theology's job. When you ask, how do I save my soul?
Yeah.
Or what is the ultimate good? Those are theological questions.
So Socrates abandoned studying the world to study the meaning of life.
And in doing that, he opened the floodgates for enthusiasm. I mean, remember, Socrates claimed he had a daemon, a spirit voice that spoke to him.
He did. He said a little voice told him what not to do.
Brucker looks at that and sees a fanatic. A guy claiming private revelation, ignoring the natural world, and preaching about the salvation of the soul. Socrates isn't a scientist. He's a moral preacher. And that puts him right on the story team.
That is such a hot take. Socrates the villain.
Maybe not a villain, but the guy who steered the ship way off course. And his student, Plato. He takes that ship and sails it straight into the sun.
Plato, the cave, the world of forms.
If Pythagoras started the story team, Plato is the MVP. He's the captain.
Because of the forms.
Because he built an entire system where this world, the physical world we're in right now, is fake. He called it a shadow. And he said the real world is this invisible, abstract realm of ideas where the good and the true exist.
Which sounds a hell of a lot like heaven.
It sounds exactly like heaven, and that's why Brucker is so suspicious of it.
Yeah.
Plato created a rational religion. He offers you salvation through philosophy. He tells you that if you study hard enough, your soul can ascend to this world of forms.
It's the ultimate border violation. He's promising religious salvation but selling it as intellectual achievement.
Yes. And for centuries, Christian theology got all tangled up with Platonism because they looked so similar. Brucker's whole mission was to rip them apart, to say, no, Plato's just telling a story. It's a beautiful story, but it's a fable.
So we've got a tragedy on our hands. Philosophy starts with Thales trying to explain the machine. Then Pythagoras, Socrates, and Plato hijack it to talk about the soul and invisible worlds. Is there anyone left to save the reason team? Or does the story team just win?
There is one final line of defense. The student of Plato who looked at his master and basically said, I think you're going too far. Aristotle.
Aristotle, the man who literally wrote the book on, well, everything. Biology, zoology, logic, politics.
Aristotle is the savior of reason in this drama. Brucker puts him firmly back on the reason team.
But he was Plato's student. How did he escape the story team vortex?
Because he rejected the world of forms. He looked at Plato's invisible heaven and said, I don't see it. He pointed back down to the earth and said, truth is here, in the starfish, in the plants, in the logic of sentences.
He brought philosophy back down to earth.
He did. He treated ethics, politics, and nature as separate fields to be studied, not as some mystical ladder to heaven. He established philosophy as a method, a toolkit for analyzing reality. He categorized, he dissected, he observed.
He was the first true scientist since the naturals.
Exactly. Brucker credits Aristotle with saving that reason lineage. Without him, philosophy might have just become a branch of mysticism for good. Aristotle kept the mechanic tradition alive.
So if we look at the final scoreboard at the end of antiquity, we have two distinct bloodlines.
Right. On one side, you've got the reason team, Thales, the other Milesians, Democritus, and their goalkeeper, Aristotle. This is the line that tries to explain how the world works.
And on the other side, their rivals, the story team. Pythagoras, Heraclitus, Parmenides, Socrates, and of course Plato. The line that speaks of meaning and purpose and the soul.
And Brucker's legacy, the whole point of this massive, dusty book, is to warn us that these two lines do not mix well. When you try to make physics mystical, you get bad physics. And when you try to make religion rational, you get bad religion.
It's a really powerful lens, and it honestly forces you to check your own assumptions. Because as listeners, as humans, we want the story team to win, don't we?
We do. We crave meaning.
We want someone to tell us the world is made of numbers, and those numbers mean you're special, or the good is out there and you can find it.
It's seductive. A universe of just atoms and void is cold. It's lonely. Plato's universe is warm. It's filled with purpose.
But Brucker is that stern German father standing there saying, don't fall for the warm, fuzzy feeling. That's the priest's job, not the philosopher's.
And it raises a massive question for us today. I mean, look at the modern landscape of public intellectuals, the podcasters, the gurus, the tech visionaries.
Oh, absolutely. You see it everywhere. Is this neuroscientist explaining how dopamine works? That's reason. Or is he telling me how to live a meaningful life? That's story.
Is this tech CEO building a rocket, which is reason? Or is he selling a vision of human destiny among the stars? That's story.
We blur that line constantly. We treat scientists like priests.
And we treat our moral leaders like they need to have scientific data to back up their values. Brucker would look at our whole modern world, this mix of science-based spirituality and corporate purpose, and he would just say, you are all confused. You are all mixing the streams.
So the challenge for you, the listener, is this. Next time you hear a big idea, put on your own sorting hat. Ask yourself, is this person explaining the machine, or are they selling me a narrative?
And if they are selling a narrative, that's fine. But just know that you've left the realm of reason and you've entered the realm of story.
And here's one final thought to chew on. This might keep you up at night. If we actually follow Brucker's advice, if we strip all the meaning and all the purpose out of philosophy to keep it pure, does it become sterile?
Is a philosophy without a story just math?
Or is that the only way to keep it honest? That's something you'll have to decide for yourself.
Choose your team carefully.
Thanks for diving into this. We'll see you next time.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.